The Democrats have seized on their post-election talking points, and they are that the whole election was influenced by fake news and hacking directed by Russia to try to destabilize the U.S. election and to try to make Donald Trump president. And that's why we all voted for Trump, and the election should be canceled, postponed, the Electoral College shouldn't vote right away, all kinds of nonsense, total nonsense, all aimed at creating their own fake news, their own disinformation. Let's be very clear about a couple of important things. First, there is no evidence that hacking by anybody, foreign power or some kid in the attic, monkeyed with the election returns themselves. Zero evidence. Zero evidence of fraud or of hacking or of inadvertent manipulation of the actual results. That would be serious if it were. The charges are that the Russians put out fake news, working with WikiLeaks to influence the Trump election. And here again, it's very important to draw a distinction. Nobody is saying that any of the emails released by WikiLeaks were phony, or that they weren't sent, or that they weren't received. They were emails from top Clinton advisors, mainly John Podesta, her campaign chairman and Bill's last chief of staff in the White House, and nobody has said that those emails are fake, or that the emails that were released that implicated the Democratic National Committee and Debbie Wasserman Schultz in the effort to manipulate the primary so as to hurt Bernie Sanders and nominate Hillary Clinton. Nobody is saying that any of those are false. What they are saying is that they were released by hackers who worked for Russia, who channeled the release through WikiLeaks. Well, who cares? The important point is the information true or not? I don't care if it was dug up by some enterprising journalist working for a newspaper or some disgruntled employee who went out and released all the secrets, like Swindon did, or by the Russians themselves hacking something and releasing it. If they actually were emails and they actually were sent, and they were sent by the people who they said sent it, and they said what they said, that's news and that's important and that's information. And it was damned important for the American people and the Democratic Party voters to know that their national committee, while swearing on stacked Bibles that they were impartial between Hillary and Sanders, were actually following a game plan conceived by Hillary's campaign to stack the primary and to make it impossible for Bernie Sanders to win. That's important information to put out there. And the pay-for-play scandal at the Clinton Foundation, which has become unraveled in part because of documents released through WikiLeaks or by lawsuits brought by conservative groups like Citizens United and Judicial Watch and Freedom Watch. That information is also very important. It shows the footprints of the bribery scheme that was the Clinton Foundation and how it had made its way into the State Department, and that Hillary was running the State Department as a service entity to deliver favors to the people who gave donations to the Clinton Foundation or speaking fees to her and her husband. That was crucial information. I'm very glad that that came out. If the release came by means that are less than appropriate, well, that's a minor matter compared to the content of the scandals itself. So the Democrats are trying to create this huge issue, basically out of claiming that Putin wanted Trump to be elected president. Well, I can understand that. I did too. I think that Hillary as president would lead to premature reactions to a war, to a very unstable and zigzag American foreign policy, and I think that Trump may be making common cause with Russia against China. I think that what Trump is doing at this point, in the selection of personnel and in his policy, is kind of going to Putin and saying, hey, let's do what Nixon did, but do it in reverse. Nixon used China to discipline Russia and to stop the aid to North Vietnam. Well, let's do the opposite. Let's the U.S. work with Russia to reduce the influence of China and curb its economic and geopolitical appetite. That all makes sense. That's super politics, the way it should be directed. And if Putin saw it coming and thought that Trump might be better for him, well, that's fine. Now, if he tried to influence the U.S. election by phony news, by planting stuff that was untrue, by substantiating rumors that achieved wide credibility that turned out to be completely false, well, that's something that's worth going after. But not if all he did was to release actual, true information. And while we're on the subject, the real fake information was from the New York Times and the media establishment, where day after day they printed stories that said Trump couldn't possibly win, his campaign was flailing, he was being rejected by conservatives, Hispanics were coming out in droves to vote against him, turnout was swelling among people who were opposed to Trump. That was all totally untrue, complete disinformation. The other disinformation was the non-information in not reporting the sweep trend for Trump among white high school educated men that transformed the politics of the northern industrial states and delivered so many of them to Trump's column. That was non-information and disinformation. So stop it. You're trying to undermine the legitimacy of an election, and you're doing so with fragments of information that make allegations against foreign powers that boil down to their release of true information that U.S. officials had been trying to suppress. Thanks very much for watching.